Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today for another video on natural herbs, foods, and so on, things that you can do to help with various ailments or for overall health of different parts of your body. And in this case, this is in regards to heart health. So mostly ways that we can strengthen our heart and feed it the right nutrients, herbs, and so on to get and keep it as healthy and strong as we can. And before I get started on the list I've compiled, let me explain a few things so you understand how this works. I do research through various different websites, natural-based, scientific studies, as well as medical-based websites to compile the information that I have, and I'll be putting a link or two down below to some articles that you might find interesting, as well as a link to this list that I'll be typing up and adding even more to, so that you can go copy and paste that into your own document and add anything else that you want. So I do that with any of these types of videos. This is supposed to be used as a jumping off point to get you started in researching these things for your own self, because what you have to understand right off the bat is no matter what it is I list here, all these things are going to work differently for each individual person based on allergies, any inherited traits that they have, or if they're on any kinds of medications. So it's always good to do thorough research on your own as well. So this is just a compilation just to get you started and to give you some basics. So let's get to this list. I'm going to be starting off with herbs and spices that are really good for overall heart health, but each one can have its different benefits and how it helps your heart. And also understand there's a lot of these that I list that I even have herb profiles on, so that will also be a link I'll be putting down below, is to my herb profile playlist that's been a work in progress for 5.5 years so far. So the first one on the list is one of those that you'll find in many of these lists, and that is cinnamon. Boy, do I love cinnamon, but it's really important that you make sure, especially if you're wanting to take it in medicinal doses or you use a lot of it anyway because you just love it like I do, to look at Ceylon cinnamon in this case. It's not that cassia cinnamon is bad per se, but if you're using it in medicinal doses or in high quantities at all, you really need to go with Ceylon. It's going to be safer. Okay, and then garlic, of course, another one we find in many of these lists. Ginger, of course, again, another one of the many. And I love ginger, so many great uses. So if you can grow it, I recommend you do, or stock up on it in its organic form. Curcumin, which again is another one of the many, just like ginger, garlic, and cinnamon, and that is found in turmeric. That's a great one right there overall. I think that's another one that people should either try to grow or stock up on to have on hand because of its many medicinal uses for pain and so much more. Capsaicin. So cayenne is often listed, but capsaicin can be found in any hot pepper. So it's not just in cayennes, it's in all of your hot peppers. But if you're like me and you like to use cayenne pepper a lot, then that's a really good option to go with. You can add it to so many things, or you can make it into capsules and take it that way. Coriander, which is a seed from cilantro, western sage, Asian ginseng, hawthorn. I mentioned this one in the hypertension related video, and I believe for this it's for the same reason. So some of the reasons you'll find a lot of these herbs and spices cross over into some of the other ones is because of what they do. So if you're trying to relieve stress and lower your blood pressure, that's also going to, because you have a chronically high blood pressure, that's going to help your heart health in general. So a few more: ginkgo biloba, rosemary, which I just did a video on, rose, reishi, bilberry, wild pansies or viola tricolor. One of my early herb related videos I did was on pansies. I love pansies. I didn't grow them last year, but I'm getting back into them because I love them. I use them in a lot of things. And even though I didn't find this when I was looking at these particular lists, what I remembered studying about it before is it's also called heart ease because of the benefits to the heart that it has. So I made sure I went and looked that up again just to verify and added that to this list. Green tea. Now, whenever green tea is mentioned, you have to realize that green tea, white tea, oolong tea, and black tea all come from the same plant. all come from the Camellia sinensis. So that would tell me that any of those teas that come from that plant can be helpful. Green tea is the one you'll hear the most about. The only difference is how they are processed or allowed to ferment. So I think it really is going to depend on your taste. Personally, I don't really care for any of them, but I think it's up to you. Green tea might have a higher benefit in this area, but really you can find similar benefits no matter which of those four you choose. And here we're going to find that hibiscus tea again, just like we did in the hypertension video. I've yet to try that, but boy, it makes a beautiful color. And a lot of people on my hypertension video were talking about using the hibiscus tea and how well that worked for them. Now let's talk about a few foods. So pomegranate, chocolate, so we're looking at cocoa or cacao. And I got to explain this again because some people seem to not understand. They're pretty much the same thing. The spelling and pronunciation are based solely on whether or not it is raw or has been heated. So cocoa is not raw, where cacao is raw. A lot of people will talk about dark chocolate, which is what was mentioned here. But it doesn't just have to be dark chocolate. It just has to be a good, healthy chocolate. And I have recipes on making your own homemade chocolates, some using sugar, some only using fruit to sweeten it with. I'll link to that whole playlist on chocolate in the description box down below if you'd like to learn some of my recipes, which, by the way, I did write out all of the chocolate recipes. And they are over on Patreon for free. So you don't need to donate to be able to access any of my recipes on our Patreon page. Okay, blueberries in particular, but really any berries are good for your heart health. But I would say the darker the berry, the more blue the color, the better. So blueberries, blackberries, and so on. But all berries can be very beneficial to your heart health and just your health in general. So some of your different healthy fatty foods like avocados, nuts and seeds, fatty fish, which is going to be naturally high in your omega-3s, and even olive oil are all really good options to consider adding more of to your diet. Now remember, you don't have to use all of these things. You can use whichever you like best, whichever works best for you. Remember that, because some people think, oh, well, I hate this or I don't eat fish. You don't have to. There's other options out there. There's other healthy fats that you can get. And then a few of the nutrients I want to add. Obviously, a lot of these is best if you can find them in your foods, but I want to list them off separately so you can know what they are. And that's going to be berberine, which is found in a lot of your plants. I'm not sure which plants because it didn't specify, because this was a new one to me. Coenzyme Q10, and remember, if you're actually going to take any of these as a supplement, make sure that you're looking for capsules, not tablets. Though we should be doing the best we can to get our nutrients from the foods, sometimes we do have to supplement, and getting a good quality capsule is important, and always avoid tablets. And I mentioned the omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium and potassium, and those are two of the minerals along with calcium that you can find in eggshells. So if you're saving your eggshells, whether they be store-bought or from your own chickens, from your own chickens are always going to be best, but you should be able to still get these same minerals from store-bought eggs. They just might not be as rich in the same minerals. So just save those eggshells and wash them up. You can let them dry naturally like I do, or you can bake them for a little bit to make sure you're killing salmonella if that is a concern. And always keep those membranes in there, because the membranes are very good for your cartilage health as well. And then I just powder them up and use them. Sometimes I'll just add them to water or tea and drink it down. Then, of course, there are the actions that we can take that most of you are already going to know, but I'm going to list them off just to remind you that getting some good exercise every day of some kind. I always try to focus as much as I can on more natural movements, but you want to look at anything that's going to help raise the heart rate. So if you're one that can't get up on your feet a lot, maybe you're in a wheelchair, but you can move your arms, even just moving your arms a lot like this will help to increase the heart rate. That's why jumping jacks were a good thing, because you're working the bigger lower muscles that are really going to get the blood pumping, but while you're moving those arms like this, that's also helping to raise the heart rate. So even if that's all you can do, that is something that's going to help get that blood pumping and elevate that heart rate, because remember, your heart is a muscle and it needs to exercise too, so that it can also get stronger. And you do that by doing different activities that are going to help raise the heart rate throughout the day. And I will also link down below to the video I did more recently on how I get exercise nowadays throughout the day. I also talk about my exercise regimen throughout the year so you can understand where I'm coming from about the weightlifting and so on, and the dance and the martial arts, but also how I've found ways to use more natural movements as well as just adding more movement to the various things I'm doing through the day. And of course, getting out in that sun whenever you can, and avoiding the sunscreens, drinking plenty of healthy water. And when I say healthy water, I mean water that's not full of chemicals like fluoride and chlorine. And again, getting it in the form of some of these herbs I mentioned. I drink tea every day, herbal tea, not true tea, which comes from the Camellia sinensis, but herbal teas, spice teas, whatever I feel like making, and I make all my own blends. Every day I drink several cups of that. So that's one of the ways I get my water throughout the day, is through the form of herbal teas. And so that's one way you can do it if you don't like drinking just plain water. And remember, you can also make cold infusions to keep in your fridge using lemons, cucumbers, herbs, whatever your favorite flavor of herb is. It can be mints. It could be something like holy basil, or holy basil mixed with some other herbs like anise hyssop makes a real tasty cold infusion. But anyway, I have a couple of videos on that. I'll try to link to at least one of those down below. If you're a smoker, I'm sorry I know people don't like being browbeat on this, but really it is important when you're looking at trying to improve your heart health, especially if you have a weak heart. This is one of the things you should really look at giving up, and finding ways to reduce any of the stress levels. Stress is actually an important part of our life. We need different types of stresses, and it comes in different forms. But if you are in a constant state of high stress, it's really important to lower that stress. The list that this is going to be in, the playlist, I also have a video on helping to reduce stress, so I recommend you go check that video out as well if that's one of the issues you're having. Getting good sleep and reducing your alcohol content. So I am not a drinker. I used to be one that would love to have a glass of my homemade wine or mead every single night, not because of the way it made me feel, but because I love the taste of it, especially with cheese. I love it. But I started feeling very convicted about that. And even cutting out that single glass of wine a night, even though it didn't make me buzz, didn't do anything like that, I found just doing that alone, the change it made in my overall health was surprising to me, because I thought I was pretty healthy in the first place. But I found myself within a week just feeling so much better in general. My mental clarity was boosted up several notches, my energy levels, pretty much everything about it. I just felt so much better. So I'm not saying you can't have a glass of wine on occasion, but if it's a ritual, if it's something you're doing every day, try reducing that to maybe half a glass or cutting it out entirely. I just quit it cold turkey and was amazed at how much better that made me feel. And that's not what I expected, and that's not why I did it. So anyway, I do recommend cutting back on that or cutting it out entirely to help with any health ailments you may have, or if you're just seeking overall better health. And that includes beer or any other alcohol as well. I do make a lot of homemade wine. They have several other purposes, and for making medicinal extracts, flavored extracts, and so on, and cooking and baking with. So I use it in a lot of stuff. But when we're just drinking it for enjoyment on a regular basis, yes, it can cause health issues, even surprisingly, just a single glass per night. And then obviously, if you're overweight, try to work on getting your weight under control. This is going to do a lot to help your overall health. And just like anything else, there should be not one set weight for every person. Everybody's going to have a different weight depending on their height, their body makeup, their bone structure, their muscle mass. So that's all going to vary. So I don't recommend living by a scales. In fact, I got rid of my scales years ago because I found myself a slave to the scales. It's really important that you just pay attention to how you feel and how your clothes feel on you when you wear them. And that should be your guide. Again, like I always say, when it comes to any kind of diet, exercise or any of these things, you need to listen to your own body and use that as a gauge, not what other people are preaching at you. I'm not here to preach at you about this. I'm here to just give you some general guidelines that you can pick and choose from to suit your own needs. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and feel free to add any suggestions that you have done to help with any heart issues you have, especially that, things that are natural that has really helped you bring you into better health down below so other people can learn from you as well. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.